Hello, guys, and welcome. Here's Kamil Kos from IrishDirectory. Today, we have a pleasure to have our co-host from IrishTech News. Hello, John. How are you?
Hello, Camille. I'm good, and thanks for having me on.
No problem. No problem, John. It's always our pleasure. Welcome, David. Thank you so much for joining us. I would like to introduce you, John. John is the founder and the director of the IrishTech News. John's IrishTech News. They are right now ranked in the top 5 in Ireland from the tech news on online platforms. They are heavy focusing on the podcast and the interviews, which we're gonna interview today. John, he's gonna give us the tips of how to write the engagement and attractive content for the websites, blogs, and the press releases. Thank you very much, John.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. So listen, we've some slides put together, which will cover a lot of topics today. So I guess, over the last number of years since we've been doing this, there's a lot of things that we've seen, a lot of trends that we've seen that, both good and bad. So, we've a good bit of experience there. And I suppose I want to highlight them today to make that content creation journey a little bit easier for people. Yeah.
I think a lot of people are going to be a lot of interested. I think it's the main problems of the current state that the businesses have, how to write the press releases to make a good impact and get engagement and get noticed. How you guys are doing this?
Yeah, so I said, there's kind of foundations for how you do it, and so we'll go into that a little bit more details in the slides. But I suppose if you think, like applying for a job, okay, and like what makes you stand out, from a crowd of like 1,000 applications for a job, with press releases and content like that, it's very, very similar, So we would get a lot of emails every day. And, you have to scan down through these. So what decides whether we're going to publish them? It's how well structured they are. It's whether they're on the message that we're looking for and whether it's going to be suitable for our audience, And if it meets those things, you have a very good chance of getting it published. If it doesn't, unfortunately, a lot of the times, just how busy media outlets are, it's just going to get deleted. So you miss that opportunity. You really need to make a good impression off the, first off. And if you can establish that relationship then with a media outlet, then it's going to be obviously much easier into the future because, they're providing good content. This is easy for us to publish. It'll connect with our audience and, everyone's happy. At the end of the day, we need good content being put out every day. And obviously you want your content published. So, it works for everybody.
Okay, cool. And do you think, is it any kind of templates how the new startups or the businesses should write the press releases, or any guidelines how they can approach that kind of problem?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think we'll get into the slides now shortly, and we'll cover these things. There's absolutely a kind of a set of things that you just have to keep in mind when you're creating content, no matter whether it's to get published on a website such as your own, if you're, publishing it wherever it's going to be published on social media. It's just if you can answer key questions and you can create the content based on those key questions, then you have a much better chance of it doing well going forward, And if it doesn't meet that, and I'll have some examples in the slides of where, it just doesn't work, or it doesn't work for the large amount of the audience that you'll have, then you're losing these opportunities. So it's I think shall we get into the slides, or do you want to continue it?
Yeah, I think that would be great. So guys, everybody who are listening and everybody who joined our webinar today, thank you so much. John right now going to present you a couple of slides. If you have any questions, you can simply write on the chat on our Zoom call, or if you would like to engage us through a social media, we are right now live on the IrishDirectory page. John, I give the freedom to you right now. I'm really curious, what did you prepare for us? If you would be so kind, please start.
Yeah, I'm just getting it ready here now. So, okay, can you see the content there now?
No, not yet.
Give me 1 second.
Great.
Now, okay, so creating content, yeah. So tips to help your business produce effective and engaging content, which media outlets will be happy to publish and people will engage with and want to share. Okay, so sounds simple, but not always the case. Yep. So just a little bit about IrishTech News, I guess, before we begin. So, and to give you an idea where the experience is coming from with this. So our website's obviously IrishTechNews.ie. We were founded in 2010, so we're just 11 years into this now. Every month we're averaging around 550,000 unique visitors, and that's turns out to be about 1.2 million page views. So we've just about 20,000 articles published now. So
that's a good bit already, though.
A good experience, all right. So it's we've kind of seen it all at this stage, you know. So and then obviously, as we were talking about before, with the podcast future is now a regularly #1 tech podcast in Ireland, and we've over 700 episodes there available to listen to. So a lot of good content there, you know, business interviews and so on, features. So, you know, it's something that would be a great help for people to listen to if they were interested in trying to, you know, create their own strategy about how they're going to get some attention to their brand. Okay. And so then again, so just we receive over 500 emails per day across the team pitching content. Okay. Wow. So yeah, and sometimes more, you know. So there was a few weeks there where it was up to 3,000 to 4,000 emails, you know, in a week. So like, you know, this has to be taken account of when you're creating content and when you're trying to get it published. Because if you just think of the amount of time that's consumed each day by a media outlet going through these types of emails, if the content isn't clear and concise and easily publishable, it's just going to get deleted, you know, and that's the simple truth of it, like, you know. So don't fall at the first hurdle, you know, like you have to appreciate that, you know, most newsrooms are under a lot of pressure to go through this type of content. So, you know, make it as easy as possible to stand out. Okay. So what I'll say is we're going to focus a little bit on press releases here today, but the advice is applicable no matter where. I think I've said that already. No matter where you're going to publish it. So like it's not just about the press releases. You know, it's advice that will work across the board. So the first slide. Okay. So answer the who, what, when, why, and where, and how questions. Right. So we've had press releases sent to us that leave more questions unanswered than a good murder mystery. Okay. So a little bit of humor, but it's unfortunately the truth. You know. So if I have to read down through as a general reader of the website now, I have to read down through an article, and by the time I get to the end of that, I can't, you know, have some impression, or I don't have some impression of the answers to those type of questions, right? Then you've lost the person, right? So if we go with what, right? So what problem will your product or service solve for the ordinary reader? You know, this is a key question. You know, you have to be able to read the content, and something has to connect with you and say, I understand this product. I can see why it helps me, or maybe I can see why it would help someone else I know who's in business. All right. So something has to stand out from the content, right? So then why will someone want to buy or use the service? So it's a similar enough type of question, right? But what's the use of this? Why is your product going to make my life better? Or why is your product going to, you know, transform my business? You know, why will I want to spend money on this? Yeah. And then who is the product actually aimed at? Okay, so quite often, you know, people release things, but it's not for the general masses. It's for a certain sector, certain categories. So clearly define that in what you're writing. Okay, so who's this going to connect with? Okay, so if you're interested in this type of product, you know, this product is going to work well for you. This service is going to work well for you. If you work in this sector, okay, this is going to be helpful for your business. Okay, so clearly define it, make people connect with it, or make them see how it might, you know, connect in their network, or how it might help people in their network. Something else that's often kind of left a bit nebulous in press releases is when will it be available? Okay, so when people want to launch a new product, they're eager to get you know, information out there, and they kind of pull the trigger a little bit early. Often they want to build up a bit of interest out there. They want to get people, you know, clicking links and so on. But what the product isn't just necessarily ready for launch. Okay, so the issue with that then, with not having clear instructions when it's available, is that it doesn't connect with the reader. If you're to say something like, you know, our product is launching in Q4, okay, that's a little bit, you know, a little bit nebulous, and people it doesn't connect with them. But if I was to say it's launching, you know, the first week of December or the 8th of December or whatever it is, well, that's something I might put in my calendar, or it's something I might go back to check, you know. So you're creating a follow-up there, something that people will check back in with, you know. So don't give people an opportunity to you know, to disconnect from what you've published. You know, make sure there's clear call to actions within what you're doing. So then how much will the product cost, okay, or how much will the service cost, or how much will it save me? You know, these are things that people really want to understand. You know, at the end of the day, if you're pitching a new product or service, how much is it going to cost me, or how much is it going to save me in the long run if I'm in business? You know, it's I think that's pretty clear to understand, okay? And then where can people find out more? So too often we get sent press releases, right, that don't even include a link, or don't have a link embedded back to the actual company. Okay, you just get sent plain text. There's no links. Okay, And on top of that, then there's no links to social media, no links to anything basically. So there has to be clear calls to action at the end of the content. You know, make people want to click it, make people want to share it, make people want to find out more. You know, don't lose that opportunity by just, you know, poorly structured content. Okay, is that clear enough for now?
Yes, so far so good. Just I'm wondering why people they never providing why people should provide the links to the social medias to your website. What's the advantage to this, even when you're publishing on the Irish Tech News or any other news platform?
Sure. Yeah. Look, so if you go to the effort, you know, you take the time, you do the resources to create some content, and you get that published, okay, wherever that may be, whether it be on Irish Tech News, for example, or even, you know, on IrishDirectory, you know, when you're creating your profile and you want to add in all the details you have there, don't make people jump through unnecessary hoops, okay? You know, make it as easy as possible for people to connect with your site. If you don't put your links to your social media sites and wherever you're publishing it, then you're expecting that people are going to go and find that. Right, but why would they? You know what I mean? At the end of the day, why would they? But if you create your profile or you create your content and you have a link to Twitter at the end, you know, it's nice and easy for somebody to click that. Then they may go on, they may follow, they may share some of your content. So there's an easy link through that. You know, if you don't include that content or you don't have it in your profile, well, then you've missed that opportunity. You know, at the end of the day, people have to pay to grow their audience most of the time with advertisement. But you know, you've got something simple and free here, which will encourage people to you know, connect more with your organization. You know, you can even embed content within, you know, press releases again, so you're making it even simpler to see the different social media platforms. But you know, that's probably for another day. But yeah, that's the real advantages, Camille.
I think as well, even when you're publishing any press releases and you're adding the links to the content, it's also a huge advantage of the SEO, like creating the links to your website, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah, and we'll touch on that later when we go into the SEO. Yeah, it's hugely important, and it's a massive mistake not to include these links. You know, so I guess when you were saying at the start, what are the core things that people need to, or what is there a template? Well, if there was only one slide out of the, you know, the whole presentation that I have here, it would be this slide itself. That people, you know, please take note of those questions and form your content based around them, because if you do, your content will stand a much better chance of being published. And will also stand a much better chance of getting engagements from the readers and getting shares then ultimately, which is, you know, the two end goals for this. Okay.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna try. I think I'm gonna try to get a screenshot and post maybe in the comments for the users that they can download it, and I think that's gonna help them out a little bit more to have the idea how to create the content from the expert point of view.
Yeah, I can share the notes as well from this as well with you later if you want to share that too. Okay?
I think that would be great value for our listeners and everybody who's taken who joined our meeting today, you know?
Yeah, great. Cool. Sure. So there's a couple of slides, another couple of slides here, which we'll talk about together, and then we'll go on to some examples because the next two, they're kind of all linked together, okay?
Sure.
So this one probably, you know, a lot of people probably won't like the sound of this, but it's the truth, okay? So information that only shareholders, investors, employees, or your mother will find interesting is not news, okay?
Yeah.
So have a clear understanding of what people will actually read. Okay. So there's kind of a lot to cover in this. Okay. But regularly we would, you know, like out of those 500 emails per day, like at least a quarter of them fall into this category. Okay. At least a quarter, sometimes more. Okay. So it's a continually bigger issue, you know, for most news outlets. So some examples, right, of the type of content that falls into this category, right? It would be appointments to your board, right, or other managerial positions, okay, funding rounds, financial results, announcements that you're using another company's product or service to run one part of your business, right, and for the most part, mergers and acquisitions, okay. So the issue with content like this is just quite simply that it's just not well read, okay. So as a result, it's going to be harder for you to get it published in a media outlet, right? And at the end of the day, if it's not going to be read, why bother? You know, it's taking up your resources, it's taking up your time. It's most likely not going to be picked up by the media outlet, and it's most likely not going to be read well. So you need to have that clear understanding of what people will actually read. Okay, so there are business newswire services, you know, there's lots of them on the go now, okay, which will take this type of content, they'll publish it on their own site, and then it'll be put out there for media outlets who may have an interest in this to pick it up and then run it from there. So that's a great way of publishing content like this, especially if there's a regulatory requirement for you to publish some of this type of content, which I understand there is in some industries and so on. So you have to get that information out there. You have to publish your results, so on. Do it through that, and don't confuse it with news, So it is information that's important to your business. It's information that's important to your shareholders, but is it information that the general reader is going to pick up on? And the simple answer to that is no. Okay.
So I think as well, maybe for the customers or the niche that the businesses are aiming for, I think that's how the content maybe should be created especially for them, not about them.
Yeah, so like something that we often talk about at Irish Tech News, right, is don't create content for the 1%, create it for the 99%, okay? And if you create content for the 1%, then don't be surprised when that content doesn't perform as you expected it to, okay? So you have to have realistic expectations about what is going to happen when you publish that content and who that is aimed for, okay? So content such as this falls into that 1%, okay? And there is 1% of people who will read it who will be interested in it, especially obviously if I'm a shareholder, I want to find out what the financial results are, but for the general public, if, company A appoints, Joe Murphy and as a CFO, then does anybody really pay much attention to that? And the truth of it is no. So I guess for us, the thing I want you to take away here is, especially for smaller companies, this is okay. Larger companies, have the budget to do it, have a marketing department, probably have a content department. It's a machine that runs and it can get this information out there. But for smaller companies, that's not the case. You might be taking up your valuable resources, which you can't afford to give over to creating useless content. You know what I mean? Make sure the content that you're creating is going to be content that somebody wants to read. Okay. And I guess something else to note would be, if you're paying a PR company or something similar, right, to create this type of content, then make sure the content that they're producing is content that people will want to read, okay? Because if you give them a brief and you say, okay, we want to announce that we've taken on such and such a person in such and such a position, they'll go off, they'll create that content for you, it will meet the brief, it'll be well written, and then they'll look to get it published on websites such as our own, okay? Mm-hmm. So that's the metric, though, that PR companies work to, right? If they've managed to get your content published on a site, okay? But there's a very big difference between published on a site and read, mm-hmm. And that has to be really clear, okay? So published on a site does not mean that somebody's going to read it, okay? It has to meet the other things that we're going to talk about for it to be read. And if you want actions out of that content, then as in, people clicking links, people finding out more, people sharing, then it has to fall into what we're talking about here.
I think the press release should be a little bit more engagement with the users, isn't it?
Yes.
Have something nice to read, have maybe like a person-to-person kind of chat. I think that would be the most kind of engaging content that you guys would be interested.
Yeah, make people understand what the product is about, and make them understand why it will change things for them. Okay, so you can absolutely announce that you've taken on somebody new. That's good news for a company, right? But don't wrap it in an article that's just about that. Speak about why this new person coming on board is going to make products better, cheaper, what new products they're going to be working on, what services, connect with people, and then that information, you've got that information out there, it's published, and people also have a positive outcome out of reading that content, okay?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so, I think that makes sense. Cool.
Yeah, it's just, create content that's suitable for the people that you're trying to aim to, and that's the thing. And make sure when you're creating content, you're putting resources into it that has the best chances of doing well, okay? And that's not by creating it for the 1%, for sure, mm-hmm. Okay? So use simple language, right? It may seem obvious, but if you use complicated or overly technical terminology, you're going to lose your audience, okay? So, this kind of fits back into the 1% again, that it might work with some people, but for the general population that's going to read this, if you get too technical, you're going to lose the audience and they're going to be gone, okay? So, people may want to show how knowledgeable they are on a subject, which is grand, they want to talk about something, right? But it's far smarter to be able to explain your product in plain English and to be able to attract the masses rather than, showing the 1% that you're very knowledgeable on the subject, okay?
But that is so difficult to do, though.
It is very difficult to do, right? So if you're struggling with it, right, I would suggest that you maybe spend some time, right, in creating explainer videos, okay? Or some sort of graphics, an infographic, something like that can break it down into a simpler language that people can consume, okay, and that they don't have to read 1,000 words to get something out of it. Okay, so everybody loves watching videos, right? And they're easy to consume on a mobile device, which is, you know, massive. Okay, and it's far easier to watch a 60-second video than it is to read a 1,000-word article that you still might not be completely sure of, you know, after reading the 1,000 words. Okay, and obviously then if you go again as well and you create videos, right, they also have the secondary use of being able to be used on social media. Okay, so you can share that on social media to, you know, enlighten people of what your product is about. So it's a double use, you know, and most of the time these are one-off costs and or something that you could train yourself to do, or, you know, get in-house help with. You know, maybe somebody has a flair for creating videos among your team, you know, it's something that you can look into. Or there's also, you know, like contra offers that you can do. It's something that maybe you approach a business that creates videos, okay, and then you offer them some of your services in return for that, okay, you know, so it's you can work both ways. So it's a simple enough thing to do, but yeah, it is hard to get, you know, down to fine points, right, without getting too technical. But yeah, again, you have to come back to the thing, what do you want out of this? When you publish that content, do you want to just try and attract that 1%, or do you want to hope that the 99% will read it and that it may connect with them, and even if they're not bought into the product, they can still see that somebody else in their network might be bought into it, or somebody else that they know working in a certain business will be bought into it, so they'll share it to them, you know. So it's
what do you think for the press releases and the content creation, what will be easier to absorb, like a written content or the video, and how, for example, long the video should be?
Yeah, so like, you know, we're gonna talk a little bit about attention spans in a minute, okay? And we'll go into a little bit more details on video there, but 100% video is easier to consume than content, hands down, okay? And you could a combination of the two, you know, as I said, the video explainer, an introduction, a short introduction about your company, the video explainer, and then, you know, the short answers to the questions we talked about above, the when, the where, the who, okay, and then the call to action at the end will work the best, okay, and then people are much more likely to share videos than they are to share text, okay.
Yeah, so, I think that would be really good advice for our listeners, like to merge a little bit of the written content and the video. I think that would make bigger impact of the press releases and engagement of the content.
And again, it all comes back into the, you know, into working, like, you know, in a complete strategy. Okay, so we say if you share a video on Twitter, okay, you can then take that tweet and embed it in the content. Okay, so there's no extra work for anyone really. It's just copying and pasting a link from Twitter into a web page. You know what I mean? So it's a simple step, and media outlets like our own love that. You know what I mean? Because we don't just want text on a page, you know, and especially not on mobile. Okay, so if you think of a mobile device, you know what I mean? You've got your big screen with white and black text, okay, and if you look away for a second, you look back, you've lost where you are. You know what I mean? It's just really not a good user experience, okay. So it's if I'm sitting watching a video, it's much easier to you know, it's much easier to engage with. It's just so much easier to consume when I'm on the go. And if, like, on any given day, you know, nearly half of our traffic is from a mobile device, okay. So if you're creating content, make sure it works on all platforms as best as possible. Now, there's no, you know, one size fits all here, but you can do your best to make content that's going to work as good as possible across the different platforms. Yeah, but and if you don't do that, then then you've lost probably 0.5% or half of the market already. Okay.
Cool. I think that's a really good advice out there. For
you.
Thank you so much.
I think we're going to look at some examples here now. Okay.
Yes, please.
So this is a press release that we recently got. So I guess what I'll do is I'll read the title and I'll read the first paragraph, which are the, you know, two of the key parts of any press release. So I'd say the images that you include, okay, the title and the first paragraph, they are absolutely key, okay, and we'll talk about those different parts as we go on and why they're so important, okay. So GemCap implement ViClarity to automate CP86 compliance monitoring, okay. So GemCap Capital Management Ireland Limited, GemCap, an innovative and approved UC ITS management company, Manco, have partnered with ViClarity to automate compliance to the Central Bank of Ireland's CP86 framework. GemCap, through its UC ITS umbrella, has attracted over 3 billion in assets from a range of different investment managers across 18 different sub-funds. Okay, so that was quite a mouthful, yeah, and I was struggling to get breath there. Nearly the first sentence was so long there, you know, so.
It's a lot of jargon out there, no? And really,
yeah, and I guess we'll have a look. Yeah, so like if I just read the first line, okay, and I go GemCap implement ViClarity, right? So right? For this to work, for that title to work, I need to know who GemCap are, right? I also need to know who Clarity are, right? Then to automate CP86 compliance monitoring, right? I need to also know what CP86 compliance monitoring is, and I also need to know why automating it is a good thing. Yeah. So that's a lot to ask. That's an awful lot to ask.
And that's even just in one sentence, isn't it?
Yeah, that's you know. I think I would say if we were in the 0.1% with this now, I'd probably be being generous. You know what I mean? Like you've really whittled down to just, unless you work in investment banking or fund management, this article is just not going to make sense to you, you know? So like if I look at the questions below, so what percentage of any site's visitors will connect with this? So as I said, you know, unless that's a website that just is concerned with investment banking, the answer is going to be next to none, you know, like very close to zero, I would say, you know. So can the average person understand it? The simple answer to that is no, as we've discussed. And will they want to share it? So absolutely, if they don't read it, they're not going to share it. You know, so you're missing on nearly every front with this. You know, so it's like these companies they make great products. You know, and I'm very familiar with Clarity. You know, like it's nothing against what they do, but you know, when you're putting this effort into creating content and you want to get it out there, make it connect with people. You know. And otherwise, you know, it's just not going to do well. It's as simple as that. You know, there's no other way of sugarcoating it. Unfortunately, you know, it's just not going to do well. Yeah. So I have a second example here we'll go into. Okay, so this is very similar, falls into the other category that we talked about of, you know, it only being important to investors and that. So I suppose the first thing I'll just point out is the length of the title. Okay. So before we even read it, right? So if you look at that,
it's really tiny, isn't it? It's so overwhelming of the information and not even clear what exactly it is like.
You know, it's going to be truncated. No matter where you share that will be truncated, right? So the truth of it is, it's probably going to be truncated somewhere around team, right? Yeah. So it means that people who have been appointed won't even get a mention when you find this on social media or on Google, okay? So I'm not going to spend too long on this, okay? Because I just wanted to give it as an example of what we talked about earlier, okay? So this is, you know, Workhuman strengthens its executive leadership team with the appointment of Scott Dassault, CFO, Chris Campbell as SVP of Product. In addition, Charles Kane has joined as board of directors, right? So, like, I just can't see this content, you know, connecting with people at all, even unless I'm an investor in the company itself, in Workhuman, right? So even if I use their products, this information is most likely not going to connect with me. You know, if I use their products, I want to know how they're going to make it better, how they're going to make it more affordable, you know, how it's going to improve my company, like who they appoint to do that, you know, at the end of the day, it just doesn't really matter, does it? You know, hopefully who they appoint it's a good decision, but for the average user and the average reader, it just doesn't work, yeah.
And I was afraid to create the press releases, I remember, for the IrishDirectory though.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's so hard to reach the news to the radios or any other media. With the press releases, like, you know, just even when you're saying how affordable it is, how it helps, and you're still not going to get a response though. But comparing to this one, I think that didn't went too bad though.
I think you can still do better than this, you know. Like I guess it goes back to talking about at the start there, the amount of press releases that people are having to consume every day. You know, your content really needs to stand out, you know, and a lot of the time, you know, companies come and go, and you know, the bigger media outlets just won't get involved with it. It's only when you really have, you know, something that's really noteworthy, like, you know, that they'll jump on board. You know, they're very seldom, unfortunately, help smaller companies. You know, but you know, you don't have to start at the top. You don't need to aim for, you know, news outlets that have 10 million people a day. You can aim for news outlets that have, you know, 10,000 people a day and work from there. And once you build that little bit of, you know, reputation with people, and people see that you're producing good content and it's easily found on Google searches or whatever, yeah, you know, you'll start to be taken a little bit more seriously. But it's small steps, you know. It's the same as everything. As you start out, it's small steps, and you have to grow from somewhere. Yeah.
I think I'm gonna need to arrange with you another call, just to have a little chat how we can promote more Irish Directory with your help, like, you know, with your expertise though.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, and I said, sure, if anyone wants any of that help, I'll have my contact details at the end. You know, we're more than happy to help people. You know, we want, you know, that's a good thing about Ireland, I think, and with the likes of the IrishDirectory. You know what I mean? It's people want to help out other businesses. There's a lot of you know, word of mouth type advertisement in Ireland, so you know, we're more than happy to help people.
Yeah, so I think that would be great if you can copy later on to our chat or share with me. I'm gonna post on all our social media channels so we can assist all the Irish businesses when they're struggling with the press releases on any content.
For sure, yeah, no problem at all. Okay.
Awesome. Yeah.
So I'm going to go on to one good example now, just to, to show you that they do come in. Okay, so that's it's not all bad news. Okay, and I don't want to just highlight the negatives. I also want to show some examples of press releases that really work. Okay, and so this press release we just published it the other day there. Okay, so it was a really timely kind of example of one that came in that just it works on so many levels, and it works on so many levels because it's really simple. Okay, and it also works right to elicit a little bit of competitiveness spirit in people. Okay, so I'll do the same again. I'll read the title and the first paragraph, and we'll go down through that then. Okay, so
great.
Revealed, right? So that's a little bit tabloidy. Okay, it wouldn't necessarily be the word I'd use all the time, but it does grab people's attention. Okay, so the most tech savvy Irish towns and cities. All right, so. Switcher.ie revealed the best locations in Ireland for tech lovers by analysing the number of adverts for tech jobs, the number of startups, access to 5G, number of EV chargers and property prices, and to reveal the best prices or the best places to live as a tech lover in Ireland. Okay, so if we just cover the title first, right, and say that I said, right, when you hear something like that about Irish towns and cities, there's always that element of pride. That's always that element of curiosity. Where's my town come, or where does my friend's town come, or is there some bit of banter we can create here, So there's a little bit of competitiveness spirit there. Okay, so straight away gets people's attention, right? So then the opening paragraph, right, it explains absolutely everything about the article. You're left in no doubt what the article is going to be about and that, right? So that's key as well, because this gets shared on the excerpt. The first opening lines of it gets shared on social media. Okay, it's also what shows up in searches, the first line of the article. So you straight away know this is something you're either going to be interested in or you're not. Okay, but from a tech site, okay, and what we cover when you think about it, right? Tech lovers, okay. Tech jobs, which we cover, the number of startups, which we cover, access to 5G, we cover, so it's ticking every box for us. So straight away, this is something that's going to work. And obviously, whoever created this content knew who they were pitching it to and knew that there was a good chance that when they created something like this, we'd run it. Yeah. So, and clearly we did, but I think it's a very good example. It works on so many levels, and it's so simple. It wouldn't have taken this long to put that together. There was a bit of research they did, as you go down through the article, it highlights the different downs and gives information on it, the amount of, say, EV chargers and things like that. So there would have been a little bit of work on the research there, but the actual creation of the content was probably 20 minutes, and really effective. It's published, it's job done, yeah. And it's clear and easy to understand. Yeah, I think you'll agree, yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I would like to also say hello to the Tarundip for joining our webinar. Thank you so much.
Hello. So we'll move along.
Yeah.
Right, so less is more, right? People's attention spans are the shortest they have ever been, okay? So this is, we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier there, right? So attention spans have drastically reduced, right, when it comes to online content. So there's loads of studies being done into this. There's software you can use on web pages to find out how people are interacting with your page. Okay, so what most of that's showing, and what's really key to what we talked about in the last slide there was that the title and the excerpt are key. Okay, so people will will generally pick out articles based on the image first and foremost. So the image is key. Then when the image takes their attention, they'll read the title. If the title is good enough, then they'll click into it and they'll read the first paragraph. And after that, then you have to have them at that point. Okay, so there has to be enough in that first paragraph to get them to read on, or they're gone. Okay. So like services like TikTok, which is why we have it here, like they've made it really easy to consume huge amounts of video now. It's just one video after another, and there's no interaction with it. You can leave your brain at the door, and the videos just autoplay one after another. And that's kind of what you're competing with nowadays. It's if you think of what the content that you're going to create, it has to compete with that type of market. Okay, so if you're going to create really in-depth articles, people will only read them if there's real value in it for them. Okay, so some examples of that would be product reviews. So if you want to find out about a product, you're obviously going to read the whole lot to find pros, cons, whether people recommend it. Other things will be how-to type articles. Okay, so basically it falls into the category of solving a problem for people. Yeah, so write content that solves a problem for people, you'll engage with them. Yeah. And then other ones would be kind of, things like top 10 lists and so on. Okay, so they still perform really, really well. Okay, so for years they've stood the test of time. So how could you create one of them for your own site? Well, maybe it's products that you, you're making, let's say, cameras for the sake of it. You could say the top 10 cameras for going on holiday, or, taking a trip abroad, or scuba diving, or whatever it is, and create a list of cameras, okay, and be as, obviously as neutral as you can be, but obviously include your own camera in there at some point. Yeah, people tend to read these things. It's an easy way of getting them in. Yeah, so you need to really deliver your message, right, in 750 words or less. Yeah, and the closer to 500 words, the better, right? And the reason for the 500 words is because articles longer than 500 words perform really poorly on mobile devices, okay? And it goes back to what I touched on earlier. It's just a very poor experience when you're scrolling through loads of white space with black text, okay? It's easy to lose where you are, especially if you're on a bus or something that's bouncing around the place. It's just, it's just not a great experience.
And for example, if you would split the text, let's say you have the 250 words, use the image, and then 250 words, would that be more engaging?
Yeah, it absolutely would, yeah. And or adding, like as I said, the combination, adding a video in, that would really work. So now you're ticking all the boxes, okay? And it's you can remove a lot of the content by using the video. Yeah, and then it works on both. It'll still work on a desktop, but it'll still work on a phone, so it's really there. So like many people struggle obviously to come in under the 750 words, right? And 500 is a stretch again, right? To get everything you can in within 500 words, right? There's a skill in being concise, and that skill needs to be learned, okay? It's not just something that just happens, it needs to be learned, it needs to be refined. Some good advice that I could give to people, that I often give to people when they're starting out creating content, is once you have your content written, right, read it out loud as if you're a newsreader, okay? So read it back as if you're a newsreader, right? Because it does multiple things, right? It shows you how the content flows, okay? Because when you're listening to yourself speaking, you'll pick up on, poorly worded sentences, and you can stop and you can refine them, you can make it flow a bit better, okay? And then obviously when people are reading that content, it's flowing in their brain too, okay? So if they're struggling to read it, yeah, they're going to stop reading it. You know what I mean? It has to flow nicely, one sentence to another paragraph to another, it has to be nicely linked. And also what you can do is read that content out to somebody who doesn't know about the content, so somebody outside of it, okay? And you can ask them questions afterwards and say, okay, can you remember what the point of the story was, or the press release was? Can you remember what the call to action was? Can you tell me some fact that you'd read out? You'll know by looking at people whether they're glazing over listening to you, or whether they're engaged and they're going, oh yeah, I'm excited about this, tell me more. Yeah, it becomes pretty clear. And that's free, easy testing that you can do before you send out a press release, to a media outlet. Yeah, does it work on the average person that you read it to? I think it's really simple, and it's effective. If it doesn't work with the person that you're reading to, it isn't going to work when you send it out. Yeah.
So maybe get a couple of the customers, couple of clients, and present them with the content, and maybe get the feedback on board. Yeah,
even your brother,
Yeah,
just somebody that isn't up to speed with the product. You obviously don't want to be asking somebody who's involved with the product, because they're going to be able to tell you anyway what they've listened to, or about the product. But like, you want somebody to take away in 500 words what the key actions are. We're launching a product. It's super because it's really cheap, and effective. Here's the call to action. Go to this webpage, find out more. Yeah, as simple as you can on that, right? Make it as concise as possible, easy to understand. So I know, like, also people really struggle with it because they're emotionally attached to their product. Okay, so if you spend a lot of time creating a product that's your baby, you think it's the best thing ever, and you could talk about it all night to tell you why it's good, but you don't get that time to do that on the internet. You know what I mean? It just isn't there. You need to be concise, and as I said, it's a skill that really needs to be learned. Okay.
I think the simplicity is the key, isn't it, for a successful press release?
It absolutely is. Yeah, just don't lose people. Keep as many people on board as you possibly can. Okay, so we go on now. So the next one is high quality images, right? Images are absolutely vital. In many ways, they're more important than the content itself. Okay, so again, I touched on this in the last slide. It's got to do with how people interact with news feeds or their social media feeds, or even when they're on a website. Okay. Generally speaking, and you can watch this yourself later when you go on social media and you scan down through things, notice what you're actually reading and why you went to it, right? And nearly always it's because of the image. Yeah, the images catches your attention, the title gets you in. Yeah, so if you don't use smart, catchy images, right, to present your company in the best light, yeah, why will anyone bother clicking? Yeah. And once somebody scrolls by something on social media, that's gone. They're never getting back to that. So you've lost that customer, right? So images must be high quality. It's absolutely vital that they're high quality, right? It's the first thing people will see. So make a good impression. Yeah.
But John, in relation of the images, should
Yeah.
the businesses do their own shoot, or do with the phone, or do with a professional camera, or hire someone, or just purchase the images, which I think most the businesses would do?
Yeah, so I think it's a combination of all, really, Camille. It depends on what your aim is, right? So what I would say, first of all, is get a high quality logo designed, okay, by a professional, right? It's a one-off cost, right? And it can be used time and time again, right? So if you want to release a press release and you don't really have any suitable images, you can send your logo with it. It'll be used and it creates brand association, okay? So it's it's a no-brainer to use that, right? So the same as anything, there's loads of people out there that charge you 20 grand to make a logo, or it's the same as everything, right? You don't have to go with the really high-end agencies, and you don't really need to at all. There's even free services out there. Just make something that looks professional, and it's good enough in time.
It should be as well resizable, isn't it? Even when you're designing the logo, it's always, I think you have in Illustrator or you have in a Photoshop, and always make sure you don't have only like a JPEG or the file that cannot be resized even to fit the content, isn't it, and articles.
Yes, so that's where I say, with the professional, that it's worth engaging with somebody who makes these, because they'll be able to provide you with all the different formats, the vectors and so on, like that you can use, that publishing houses will want and so on. It can be used across the board. Even if you're in print media, they can be used, and that's what they'll be looking for. They'll be looking for extremely high quality, because obviously when you blow it up to the size of a magazine or whatever, it starts to look really poor. Right. I guess something else is, don't embed images in Word documents or PDFs. That's something a lot of people do. And I would say don't use PDFs at all. PDFs are terrible for content, because when you copy out of them, it always pastes unwanted formatting with it that you just can't see. Okay, and it can destroy the text, and it creates a lot of work for the media outlet then. So, don't make it difficult for people. And if you embed the images in Word docs and that, then most people will take a screenshot of that, right? So, and it's already then a screenshot of an image that's been embedded at a lower quality than it was. So every time the quality is decreasing, okay? So always send your original images along with whatever content you're doing, and in as high a quality as possible, okay?
So you think the content should be sent, let's say, if it's sent to for example, to the IrishTech News. So it should be via email as a text, let's say, with the simple bullet points, and image as an attachment, isn't it?
So the image as an attachment, and you can use a Word doc or a Google doc, whatever it is you use. There's no real problem with that for the content. But it's just not PDFs. PDFs are a big no-no. Unfortunately, they weren't designed for this. It's not what PDFs were designed for. So they're not being used correctly in that sense. So the whole idea of a PDF was that you wouldn't copy out of it; that became a secure document. So, but obviously that's gone muddied over the years. But yeah, look, I have an example here of an image like that we were sent. I always use this one as an example, because it was a number of years back when we started doing our business showcase section, and we were featuring this company, and we asked them for high quality images, and this is what they sent back. So you can see on many levels why this is a problem. Like, you know what I mean? And this was actually a screenshot of their logo. It wasn't even actually their logo.
Oh my God.
It was a screenshot that somewhere else that had been embedded, like that, had a poor quality. So look, if people see this, obviously we wouldn't publish that, but some will, and sorry, like if people see that, they're just going to think, like, what's the story with these people? Like, you know what I mean? If you're not going to put the effort,
professional or not?
Yeah, you know what I mean? It really creates a bad impression, I think. So, that's just the way it is, but people, you can't complain about this with people, because, like, it's not fair. Some people are very good at what they do, and these things aren't their wheelhouse. So it's a matter of education. Again, as I said to you, it's not that we're running down anybody. We want to help people here. So it's make sure you have the good images. You know what I mean? And it works on so many levels. It works, and it can be used across the board. And it's only one one-off cost, so it's well worth investing in there.
Like we have the same problems with our users. Like we have a beautiful galleries set up especially for them, beautiful slides in the high quality images, and they're putting like a little dots of the images, and I'm trying over and over again to understand what's the.
Could you do something like a pop-up or something and suggest, when you see people, uploading an image that's fallen under a certain pixel size or under a certain...
Oh, we have that. We have a guidelines.
Yeah.
We have a guidelines when you have your beautiful gallery in your admin panel. You have the guidelines for the images. Our recommended size is such and such. For the logo, in such and such. But the people, I think they are trying they're creating those information, provide you the information really in a rush, and they don't have a time to think about it or even read.
Yeah, I think, you know, yeah, like you would probably have to watch people filling it out and see, are they actually paying attention to the guidelines at all? You know, I think that's probably some of it. Maybe people are just, as you said, in too much of a hurry and they're skimming over it. But yeah, they probably need, you know, maybe a little document that you could share with people, giving people examples like this. You know, this is what they're going to look like if you use poor images. So let's not do that. You know, and let's create something that. Yeah, look, there's you know, I think there's definitely things we could work on there. I'm going to plow on, Camille, because I'm conscious of the time and I still have a few slides left.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think we could be talking for about 2 hours here, really, to tell you the truth. But yeah, I'll plow on anyway, okay? So search engine optimization, right? So your content needs to be created with search engine optimization at its core, right? So this is another massive issue, okay? Another massive issue, right? It's still in this day and age, SEO is seen as something that's for web developers, right? And, you know, that's just couldn't be further from the truth, yeah? So if you think, right, I suppose I will give you the example for us, right, that on any given day, right, search engine drives 50% of our new visitors, right, to the site, yeah? So that's 50% of new visitors every day that's coming from Google, okay? So search engine optimization is all about how your content performs on that search page, right? So, you know, like, most people will find content, right, about business and that via Google search. Yeah, they will search for a certain product or a certain type of product. They'll search for whatever it is, and search results are going to come up, right? And I guess if we use the example, right, of the press release, so if you go and you create your good content, right, and it's published on IrishTech News, right, that's going to be there forever. It never runs out, right? We're going to leave it published forever, okay? So if you compare that with ads, for example, right, we say where you go to Google and you take out your AdWords account and you put a certain budget in and you advertise your keywords, okay, and then your budget runs out, those ads are gone and gone forever, right? But if you do good SEO, right, you create content with good SEO, that content, right, can end up on the first page on search engine results quite easily, okay, and that will be like free advertising forever, yeah. So anytime somebody searches for the keywords, they're going to find the articles like they are on IrishTech News. People are going to go into them because it acts as validation. People think, okay, it's not just some pie in the sky product. It's a product that IrishTech News have reviewed, okay, or it's a service that they reviewed, or it's a business that they featured, you know. So the technical aspects of SEO will be looked after by, you know, the site, the publishing site like our own. But the core principles of creating content that's sympathetic to search engine optimization and takes on the core principles of it, right, has to be respected by the creator, okay? So that has to come from the creator. It's not something that we're going to rework. If you send us a press release, we're going to make minor updates to it, you know, minor edits to it to make it work better with SEO, but we can't substantially change the content. That's down to creator. You know, we have to keep the message consistent with what they wanted to do. So it has to be created at the start. So you know, there's loads of help articles out there about this. Maybe there's something we can link to a few afterwards in the comments and so on, you know, but it's SEO is something, and creating content with regards to SEO is something that we could easily do another hour on just by itself. So I'm not going to get too bogged down here, but it's something that really needs to be considered, right? So just down to the basics of creating interesting titles, right, that contain the focus keyword from the content. So what's a focus keyword? Okay, so the keyword would be like if you're launching a new product, the name of that product, it would go into the title. You know, company A releases product B. Okay, so product B then is your focus keyword, right? It needs to appear a certain amount of times. There has to be correct saturation of that keyword within the content. Okay, and you need to do things like you know, creating subtitles, suitable subtitles where that focus keyword appears in. You need to have outbound links, okay, which is something we just touched on earlier. You need to have a do follow outbound link within the article, okay. And you know, a lot of this, I said, it can be read up on afterwards. But you know, I would encourage anyone who views this, who has any questions about it, just to, you know, get in touch with me, and I'll happily give you a crash course on it. You know, I think I don't want to get too bogged down here now because we go down a rabbit hole. Yeah.
Yeah, because I know that Taron Deep is posted the question, how will a 500-word article rank on a search engine? I have not been able to do that. However, it's easier to do for a 2,000-word article.
Yeah, so one of the principles of SEO, okay, that always comes back is that your content should be over 1,000 words, right? So that still rings true, you know, like that your content should be over 1,000 words, because longer articles do better as per search engine optimization results. Okay, but the problem with that is that it will do better in search engine optimization, but it won't do better when somebody reads it. Yeah, especially on a mobile device. So times are changing. It's that's basically what all it comes down to. If you're creating content that's just for the desktop and you're happy for it just to be the desktop, then over 1,000 words is the mark. Okay, and it should be over 1,000 words. But if you're creating content where you want people to be able to consume that on mobile, and if that's happening more and more and more now, it needs to be short and concise. Okay, so that's the easiest way I can
I think short, punchy with the keywords and engaging to the users, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I think it's even better to create a couple of articles instead of one big one, and maybe focus on the engagement titles, which is always really handy to create as a questions, which works for the voice search as well.
Yeah, and what I would also say, just on that comment that you had there, while it's difficult to get shorter articles published, okay, it is absolutely is possible. We're doing it every day, you know what I mean? So there's more than one element to this, you know what I mean? And it could be something else that's holding you back, so it needs to be looked into. But the same thing, I'm quite happy to look into anything like this with people. I'm quite happy to give assistance where I can, okay?
Great. Hopefully that helped you. Hopefully that helped you, man.
Yeah, and for sure. As I said, I'm just conscious of time now. So if the contact details, I said, will be at the end, and that person, I'll be more than happy to have that discussion with them afterwards.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that's what we're aiming for. It's this position, and I said that becomes free advertisement for you there all the time. Anytime you can appear on that first page, it's free advertisement, and that's the end goal here with SEO. It's just how you perform in search engine results. Okay, so this is an example then of that focus keyword. As I said, this is a product that we reviewed recently. So it's a Hooter 110 watt 5-port charger station. Okay, so the keyword is Hooter. It's in the title. It's in the opening sentence. Okay, and it's also in a subheading further down along. Okay, so
that's on the very beginning though.
Yeah, this is just a brief touching on just on the simple parts of making sure that you're keeping consistent with it. It's more to highlight the fact that it's not actually that much work, to make sure that your content complies or is sympathetic, as I said, to SEO. It's straightforward enough to do. Now obviously there's a lot more to it than this, okay, but it's just to show you that even if you're touching on this, you're already doing better than not doing it at all. Yeah,
that's completely right, John.
Yeah, so no long boring quotes from politicians. Okay, so this is again a serious problem with content. Okay, so if your product is good enough, right, then you tell us why it's good enough, right? Don't have a politician tell us that it's good enough. Okay, and before the lockdown came, the amount of events we would have been at, the politicians were announcing a product was like it was harsh, you know what I mean? It was really harsh. Okay, so I know it's not happening now, but it's going to come back for sure, and maybe it'll just come back more digitally, or via video calls. But like politicians are always going to say nice things, right, about you, about the weather, about everything. Yeah, it doesn't really add that much validation to your product just because a politician came and launched it. Okay, it's much more effective if you can tell us why that is. Now it might create a nice media day and it might create nice images and so on. Okay, for a nice picture opportunity, but really at the end of the day, is that going to sell your product, or is it going to help you sell the product? And also, like from that live event point of view, like politicians are very difficult to deal with. Okay, so they seldom arrive on time, which leaves people waiting. Right, they seldom stay on topic. And inevitably, they're probably going to tell your audience that some policy that they implemented has led to your success. Okay, so why you go down that avenue is what I'd say to you. Create content that you can use to sell without the need for somebody else endorsing it. Because I think most people, especially in business, will see through the politician endorsement anyway. You know what I mean? It is what it is. I don't think it adds too much to it. So it's just something to keep in mind. Like we would often get press releases in, and we would say that you would have maybe 250 words at the start that are about the product or service in the company, and then there's 750 to maybe 1,500 words right attached onto the end with quotes from politicians or people involved with it. It just doesn't add to it. It needlessly makes the article longer. Yeah, and it just doesn't sell it for you. It's not. I don't think it's going to, see it. We certainly don't see it in the results of articles with the analytics that, ones that have politicians quotes somehow do better. It's just not the case at all. Yeah, and a lot of the time it can actually be negative, because if there's negative sentiments towards that particular politician, well, then the people who have issues with him online or whatever are going to rally against that. So it's better not to bring yourself into that situation at all. Yeah.
Yep.
Clear enough.
Yeah. So far so good, I think. Yeah.
Okay, so is the main message of the content easy to share on social media, right? The title of your press release is key here. It needs to be clearly conveyed a message in as few words as possible. Okay, so I think we've touched about, or we've gone over a lot of this, but
yeah.
It's if I read the whole story, okay, that's been published, and I can't easily summarize it in something that will fit into a tweet, the chances are I probably won't share it. Yeah, I shouldn't have to think about it at the end of it. It should be. The message should be, jumping out at me, and this is what I want to share, okay? And the reason I want to share it is because, geez, I've seen this product, it's brilliant. Yeah, this really connects with me. I could really use this. I'm going to tell my network about it because I think they could too, okay? So you have to include something that'll inspire people to share the story. It's as simple as that. It has to connect with them, right? And it has to make them realize that it's going to be of benefit or in benefit to other people, right? Like I think we've talked about as well, it was just the including the social media aspects, the start. Like, so it is massive for this too, right? Don't make people jump through hoops. We often get told when we ask people where their social media links are in it, we get told that they're they're on our website. But that's presuming, right, straight away that somebody's even going to go to your website. You know what I mean? The content has to be good enough to get them there to begin with. But then why make them, make that unnecessary jump to have to go and search, somewhere for that, okay? So it all feeds in, good content, clear, concise messaging, it will all work together, okay? And it will make it easier to share. But you need to be thinking of these things before you create the content. And I think that's what a lot of people don't do. They create the content, it doesn't perform well on social media, then they wonder why, and they have to go back. But often you've missed the opportunity then, So it's about creating value for you, not wasting your own resources. Have these things in your mind before you create it, and think, will somebody share this? If they were to see it, and again, not somebody who's emotionally invested in the product, just your average Joe public, will he actually engage with this and will he want to share it? Okay.
Yeah. So
the next one, advertorials do not equal news. Okay. So don't try and pass a blatant advertisement off as a press release. Okay. So this is something that we've had a massive problem with over the lockdown. Okay. So as every company has decided that they want to now start selling hand sanitizer or gloves or masks, yeah, they automatically think that if they just throw some sort of blatant advertisement together and send it into a news outlet, that will publish it because of some, public service type element to it, right? But you're asking us to publish something that's just going to try and make you money. That's not news. Okay, so there's an issue with that, right? And there's an ethical issue with that anyway, within feeding people ads. You know what I mean? So people don't want to be fed ads, clearly. You know what I mean? And what they certainly don't want to do is read down through an article only to realize at the end of it that it was a blatant advertisement trying to get them to buy a product. People read news because they want to be informed. Yeah, they don't. There's every company, right? Every media outlet, right, has options available for advertising products. Okay, so if you want to do that, at the end of the day, that's how media outlets pay their bills. You know what I mean? So there's always going to be an element of advertisement, but it's done in a correct manner. Yeah, and it's not done where you're trying to hoodwink somebody into buying something. Okay, so if you're trying to create an advertorial for your product, engage with the media outlet. That's all I can say to you. They'll have market insights that you just won't have, and it could be hugely beneficial to you. They could save you a ton of money. You know what I mean? Because you could be trying to target a certain sector, right, that's very difficult to reach, but the media outlet will know how to reach them, right? They'll have contacts, they'll have so on, they'll have networks built up. So it's some products are extremely difficult to advertise, because if you think about it, right, if you're going to get into something that's very niche, right, so tech is already a niche, right, and then if we go and let's say you're doing something with cryptocurrencies, which is usually popular at the moment, right, that's a niche now within a niche, okay, and then if I say, okay, I'm going to, my product is something to do with blockchain, okay, so that's a niche within a niche within a niche, okay, so you're really narrowing down the amount of people that are going to that product's actually going to connect with. So you have to be very careful about how you go about this, or you're just going to end up wasting money. You know, it's like throwing the wide net and hoping that you catch some fish. You know what I mean? It's not. Let's just target the fish. Yeah, you know, and that's the one thing I would say to you. If you're thinking of advertisement or think of advertising products, do it properly. Don't just, you know, start trying to chance your arm instead of creating a press release that's sneaking it in. It's just not going to create a good relationship with the news outlets to begin with, because people are going to read it and see exactly what it is, and it's just going to get deleted. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to use humor, right? Everybody likes reading or watching content that makes them smile. Okay. So it's like some of the most viral campaigns that there have been, right, have been ones that have used clean, simple humor, right, that have connected with people, right, and encouraged them to share it. So even if the video is about a product that, so you know, that the person reviewing it isn't actually that interested in, the humor part of it will encourage them to share it because it's funny. And when they share it then with their network, you have a much better chance of somebody within that network actually, you know, connecting with that and going, oh, that product is for me. Okay. So it's a really simple way of doing things. It's also hard to do, and it's not something I'm saying that you should be using all the time or doing all the time, but it's certainly something that don't be afraid to do. You know, lighthearted content works well, you know. So I think we have a little video here of one we'll have a quick watch of, and you can see.
I'm Mike, founder of DollarShaveClub.com. What is DollarShaveClub.com? Well, for $1 a month, we send high quality razors right to your door. Yeah, $1. Are the blades any good? No. Our blades are f***ing great. Each razor has stainless steel blades, an aloe vera lubricating strip, and a pivot head. It's so gentle a toddler could use it. And do you like spending $20 a month on brand name razors? 19 go to Roger Federer. I'm good at tennis. And do you think your razor needs a vibrating handle, a flashlight, a back scratcher, and 10 blades? Your handsome-ass grandfather had 1 blade and polio. Looking good, pop up! Stop paying for shave tech you don't need. And stop forgetting to buy your blades every month. Alejandro and I are going to ship them right to you. We're not just selling razors, we're also making new jobs. Alejandro, what were you doing last month?
Not working.
What are you doing now?
Working.
I'm no Vanderbilt, but this train makes hay. So stop forgetting to buy your blades every month and start deciding where you're going to stack all those dollar bills I'm saving you. We are DollarShaveClub.com, and the party is on.
So just a simple one there. I hope the video came across all right on this, but it's just, you know, it's a simple way of doing things. I think that video has been shared about, or has been viewed about 30 million times, you know, at this stage. So, you know, really effective, and it'll be considered one of the success stories of viral marketing. Yeah.
I really like that part with the bear and the chichu and the chichu train.
It's simple stuff, you know. Okay, and you know, it's not something that small companies are going to be doing, but it's something that definitely works very well. And I guess I just want to highlight the fact that, you know, making people smile, making people laugh really encourages engagements and sharing. Okay, so if you can work that some way into your strategy, then, you know, it's something that'll hopefully work for you. So just like the final thoughts. Okay, so just some very quick things to go over here. Okay, I'll fly through them. Case studies, right? So people love reading case studies, right? So this is something, when you're thinking about creating content, you should think about creating case studies, right? Case studies explain to people why a product does well, and it also shows them that somebody else is using it successfully. Okay, often people don't want to be the first one to try a product. Okay, so if you can show them that, you know, we've started working with this client that's improved their productivity, it's reduced their costs, whatever. Also, if another company can see that one of their competitors is using it, they'll be much more likely to jump in, yeah, or much more likely to find out more anyway and see how they can also use it, because they won't want them having some sort of competitive advantage. So, you know, take advantage of it. Once you've established some relationships with clients, ask them, you know, to do case studies. If the product is working well for them, they'll most likely would be more than happy to help you out, you know. So media training is the thing. So speaking, as I said to you, with videos and so on, and audio being the main focus nowadays, okay, for sharing content, it's really important that you're somebody in your organization who can speak well about your company, right? If you don't, start looking at investing in some media training. It's a one-off cost, but it will pay dividends completely. You need somebody who's going to be the forefront of the company when they're out pitching for business review, whether it's going to events when they come back, or even digitally when they're doing it. You need somebody who can speak and speak well and doesn't waffle, you know. So again, it's like being concise. It's a skill that needs to be learned, you know. So consider doing it. You know, it's not that expensive, you know what I mean, and it really will pay dividends for you in the long run. Yeah. And then the last one, invest in your employees. Okay, so you know, I couldn't emphasize this enough. Like it's when you're creating, when you want to content created, like, you know, maybe there's somebody within your team who has a flair for English, you know what I mean, or did well at English, speaks well, or is a good storyteller, or, you know, has a flair for video production, whatever it is, you know, like focus on that, like, and then invest in that employee by giving them some training. They can also then go and train other people within your group, you know. So now everything is coming in-house. Even though it might be an extra task for somebody, it's still better to have it in-house than to be paying somebody on the outside to do this for you and maybe not being happy with the results or being overcharged, you know. So I think it's you know, something to consider. Invest in your team. It's a lot of these things that we've talked about, it's straightforward enough to do, and it's you know, it gives another string to the bow for one of your employees, you know. So it's definitely something to consider. So that's it. I think there are my contact details there. Obviously, the website or podcast is anchor.fm/Irish-Tech-News. My email, john@IrishTechNews.ie. So, and then of course you can find us on Irish Directory.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you so much, John. Guys, if anybody is listening right now, would you have any questions? Would you like to ask anything, John or me, in relation of the content creation or Irish Tech News or Irish Directory? Oh, thank you so much, David. So David just shared a great session, guys. It looks of good practical points. Love the beer too. Many thanks. Thank you so much, David. Guys, I'm gonna share at the very end, in the comments, all the contacts to John. If you have problems with any press releases, you're looking more for, if you business based in Ireland and you're looking for exposure, you're looking for the trainings, we can both assist you how to do the content, how to do the press releases, assist you with anything of the exposure, how to promote your business, how to get heard and go through that heavy noise that we have it right now, because so many startups going on right now. So let us know, put in the comments. We're always here to help you out. Thank you so much, John. Thank you, everybody, for joining today's webinar. And stay tuned. We have one more webinar coming, hopefully next week or in 2 weeks. And so stay tuned. We're going to share all that content soon with you. Thank you so much, John. I think that was really useful.
Super. Yeah. No, listen, thanks for having me on. I think it was a lot of good stuff covered there. You know, a little bit conscious that we fly through some of it, but we're trying to keep to the time frame. But I said, yeah, for sure, people, you know, get in contact and I'll help. And again, you know, people should be looking at Irish Directory. You know, a lot of what we talked about today, there's a lot of things that you can consolidate in one place there, you know, and bring together, make it easier for people, you know. So yeah, I think, look, it's there's a lot there, but, you know, hopefully it helped a few people.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, John. Thank you, everybody. Have a good afternoon. Stay safe, everybody. Bye-bye. Ciao, ciao.